Since I kind of grew up obsessed with the holiday, I did a lot of homework, and you find out why you trick-or-treat, why you get dressed up, and there are very creepy origins to a lot of the traditions that we take for granted.
Michael wanted everybody to become steeped in the lore of Halloween, where it came from.
Wait, not yet.
What?
You're supposed to keep it lit.
Why?
Ancient tradition?
Henry, it's Halloween, not Hanukkah.
Trick or Treat! No, really. Trick or Treat is a 2007 American anthology horror film directed by Michael Dougherty, starring Dylan Baker, Rochelle Adis, Anna Paquin, Brian Cox, and so many more. Let's take a quick look.
This is the one night.
Don't forget your costume.
All sorts of things roam free.
Halloween School Bus Massacre.
Daddy!
Shh, be quiet.
Why?
You'll bother the neighbors.
Okay.
There's another tradition. Always check your candy.
You have to get out of here! Weird voices! Lucas! Over here!
You gotta be kidding me.
I hate Halloween.
Happy Halloween and welcome to our very special spooky edition of the Cult of Films. That's right, we are talking about 2007's Michael Dougherty's Trick or Treat. Now, this is one that I had not seen until kind of recently. I know Michael Dougherty went on to do Krampus and then went on to also direct a quite bigger film in Godzilla King of the Monsters, but this is kind of where he started. But the kind of origin story of this project and the origin story of Sam, the Pumpkinhead, could go back to 1996 when he directed a animated short called Season's Greetings, showing a little boy dressed in orange footy pajamas with a burlap sack for a mask being followed by a stranger. And unfortunately, we kind of know what probably befalls our poor young Sam. Now, the thing is, this only had a budget of $12 million, and it had some pretty great performances and great stars, and I think that this is quite an underrated Halloween film. I feel like this is such a fun thrill ride, not Exorcist level scary. I could argue it's not even really scary. It's more on kind of the creepy end. It centers around 4 stories that kind of interconnect, and I think that's kind of the best part of Trick or Treat. On surface level, if any of these were just the main storyline, I don't think it would have worked very well, but the fact that it all kind of smartly kind of comes together with all of our characters overlapping and intersecting, I think that is kind of what sets this apart. Like I said, it's not very scary, but it does have quite a high death toll, and quite a high death toll of children. Actually, to be quite honest, that's actually a big turnoff of mine as far as horror movies go. I'm not a big fan of creepy children or just killing children in general, and I'm surprised that I actually liked this one quite a bit because the death toll is quite high and the death toll of kids is quite high in this, and it's done in a brutal way, but kind of a comical way. Yes, it is produced by Bryan Singer, which is probably the scariest thing about this film. Ugh. This did make some money, even in spite of the fact that Warner Brothers kind of pulled it right before its original release date. I think it was coming out right around the time of Saw 4. I don't know if it was a competition thing or not, but I don't even know what the story is, but maybe they didn't have as much confidence in this film as they did the Saw franchise. Even though, say what you will about the Saw franchise, that franchise does print money when they make those horrible films. I've never been a fan even of Saw 1. I would have much rather seen something like this in the theater and give money to this. Michael Dougherty really created a fun and terrifying film that centers around basically the embodiment of Halloween and trick-or-treating. Every holiday has its own type of face or personification. Christmas has Santa Claus, Easter has the bunny, Thanksgiving has turkeys, pilgrims, yikes, no, that's not good either. Aborigines, oof, gosh, God, does Thanksgiving need a rebranding. But the personification of Halloween is now this childlike little demon boy named Sam, who is kind of a good character. He acts as kind of a embodiment of a cautionary tale where he's kind of righting the wrongs and transgressions of people that deserve it and don't really respect the Halloween tradition. It is told in a non-linear narrative with all of our characters in one way or another crossing paths with Sam. First off, we have Emma and her husband Henry, who are returning home from what seems to be like a long night of partying. This whole film takes place in Warren Valley, Ohio, which is a fictional town where it looks like this town really kind of goes all out and has this like big downtown festival for Halloween. Henry is looking to get some action, and Emma wants to kind of clean house first, and she just kind of starts bad-mouthing the holiday as a whole and starts, turning off all the jack-o'-lantern lights. That I guess that's a big no-no. And that's kind of a reoccurring theme that happens throughout the film. Don't blow out the jack-o'-lanterns candlelight until, I guess, dawn? I didn't even know that was a rule, but it definitely isn't strictly enforced in this film. And she gets brutally murdered, and then her husband kind of finds her splayed all over the place with the lollipop, which turns out to be Sam's murder weapon, like it's his like Michael Myers knife. Then we go and we see Charlie, who's this kind of obese kid, wandering the streets by himself on Halloween, not in costume, but just kind of being an asshole, knocking over jack-o'-lantern, so you know bad stuff's coming to him. If Emma can't even blow out the candlelight on the jack-o'-lantern, what would he do to this prepubescent kind of roly-poly kid just completely smashing the pumpkins? Well, he doesn't even get that far. He doesn't even get the opportunity to meet said Sam, because he runs into his school principal, Stephen Wilkins, and it seems just like a teaching moment or a mentoring moment where he kind of sits down with Charlie and tells him why he shouldn't be doing what he's doing or stealing extra candy. Then Charlie gets quite sick, so sick in fact that he vomits up everything he has. Little does he know he's just been poisoned by his own principal. Did I say spoiler alerts? Because spoiler alerts. Principal Wilkins takes him in the backyard to kind of bury him with some other children that we haven't seen. This principal's having like a one-man purge, and he's just kind of knocking off kids and women, which we find out later, just left and right. You see that, unfortunately, this man is also a father to a young boy who is just, trying to get dad to come upstairs and carve pumpkins and spend time with him. Seems to really irritate Mr. Wilkins. I want to leave some things to the imagination because I think that the surprises are what really elevates this movie. So I want to leave some things unsaid just in case you haven't seen this film, and you should see this film. We're having this very macabre yet comical scene with one of the children that's in Wilkins' hole, not quite dead yet. He's trying to silence this poor child while he's talking to his neighbor because he's making so much noise, and the neighbor kind of comes up and just to see kind of what the racket is. And then he just has a very tender bonding experience moment with his son. Another group that we follow around is Macy, Sarah, Chip, and Schrader, who invite Rhonda, who is obsessed with carving pumpkins. Her whole kind of porch is full of them. Maybe on the spectrum a little bit. They invite her to an abandoned stone quarry, which Macy kind of tells the backstory of the Halloween school bus massacre that happened 30 years in the past, where a bus driver was kind of paid off by the parents of these 8 children because they were different or mentally challenged, to essentially drive the bus off the quarry and eliminate these parents' problems. This is kind of a blown up urban legend, or so we think. So the kids take one jack-o'-lantern per fallen child in the urban legend to go I guess, put afloat where the bus is said to be. A group of children find out that not only was this urban legend true, but it's also kind of come back to haunt them. So it turns out that this group of trick-or-treaters actually takes Rhonda to kind of scare her to death, and that kind of backfires. Again, they mishandle a pumpkin, they throw it into the water where the bus is in the quarry, wakes up all the zombie children from the urban legend, and Rhonda kind of gets her revenge. Albeit quite extreme, you know, scaring a child versus leaving your friends get torn apart by zombie children. I don't know if that's apples to oranges, but it happened. Next, we'll focus on a group of young women led by Laurie, who is played by Anna Paquin. Yes, I'm not the biggest Anna Paquin fan, but she did fine in this film. Her sister Danielle, friends Maria and Janet are all dressed up as scantily clad fairy tale characters. You know, one's like a sexy Cinderella, a Little Red Riding Hood, and they are looking to party from out of town, which at first it just feels very horror movie tropish. You know, these young women are just kind of single, ready to mingle, and they're just like, it seemed a little off at first because just the selection of the men that they're looking at, it's like they find like a group of telecom workers, and one of them's like the party store cash register guy, and it's just like, they're not very picky, we'll say that, except for the youngest, Anna Paquin's character. She's looking for her first time to be very special, so, you know, she's this more reserved one. Then there's a side scene where this guy kind of dressed like the Phantom of the Opera with vampire teeth is being real intimate with this girl in this back alley. Turns out he's literally biting her like a vampire until she bleeds out, and then just like props her up on the side of a store because it's Halloween. Everyone has like fake blood and guts and stuff, so it like that was kind of effective, where it's like, oh shit, I wonder if that's happened before. Unfortunately, you think of like a crowded party place like a Mardi Gras or like a Las Vegas Strip, it just really creeped me out that probably has kind of happened in real life. It turns out that the hooded sexual predator vampire, and no, it's not Bryan Singer, it's actually Principal Wilkins, kind of sets himself upon Laurie, the timid one dressed as Little Red Riding Hood. Finds out that there's a lot more than he bargained for, because the group of women actually turned out to be a pack of wolves, a pack of werewolves to be exact. And the first time she was speaking of is actually the first time turning into her werewolf form and eating a human. So yeah, creepy Wilkins kid is now orphaned, but you know, don't feel too sad, because I'm sure even in the system he'll get better care than his child murdering father. I thought that was one of the cooler scenes, the transformation around the bonfire of all these women turning into werewolves. The effects look real good. It kind of reminded me of like American Werewolf in London. No, the effects weren't on that level. It was just shot in a really interesting way to elevate that scene, to make it seem like it probably cost more than it actually did. Now we're introduced to Brian Cox's character, Mr. Krieg, and his storyline is kind of running parallels to Wilkins' storyline. While Wilkins is doing all those horrible things in the backyard, trying to cover up the bodies of the children he's put there, Krieg is just kind of scaring away trick-or-treaters. He's just like getting drunk on the couch with his dog. It kind of turns into like a little home invasion section, and he is actually set upon by none other but Sam, the little pumpkin head. They have some really cool brawls. This is where the movie gets really brutal, a lot of glass in your hands type thing. This is where I was like starting to cringe. Mr. Krieg is the bus driver, and so that kind of connects him back to the lore of the urban legend. After a while, after they kind of have this brawl, Sam just kind of leaves. So it looks like maybe, you know, Krieg goes outside and he's just kind of watching Sam across the street, and he's all like bandaged up now, and he's just like, oh, okay, you know, maybe I've kind of learned my lesson and learned my way. So he goes to sit back on the couch, but ding ding, opens the door, and there's all the zombie children from the bus, and they just kind of set upon him in a very cool stylized way. This movie is shot so dynamically. The colors jump off the screen. Everything is lit beautifully. The oranges are real orange. The yellows are real bright and vibrant, all set against a very dark, you know, everything's at night. So it's very important for the color schemes to kind of pop, and they absolutely do. Even the opening credits and the end credits, the kill scene for Mr. Krieg, are all done in like a comic book way. It's just, think of like, you know, the opening to a Marvel movie. It kind of tells all four tales if you're paying attention in the beginning, in the opening scenes, which is real cool. And then again, like I said, at the end, during the end credits, All the performances are great. This many children leading your film, were they perfect performances? So, yeah, some of them didn't work, but they were just kind of there as a plot device, most of them, because, like I said, the body count was real high. They incorporated a lot of tropes, like the Jack the Ripper type stalker that gets his comeuppance. They threw zombies in there. They threw mental health in there, like a Michael Myers almost. You had werewolves, and I think Sam was a perfect encapsulation of, you know, the embodiment of a Halloween deity. I think his design was real cool, real menacing, and the creature effects were great. So like I said, Trick or Treat, I would definitely recommend it for a kind of a staple for the holiday. Have a couple people over, put Trick or Treat on in the background while you're entertaining, and I think you'll have a real good time. Also, if you're in Orlando, Florida, if you go to Universal Studios, they even have a Trick or Treat Halloween Horror Nights event and a scare zone, like a Trick or Treat movie themed haunted house, which I heard is really cool. So that's it for me for this episode of the Cult of Films. Happy holidays, be safe out there. If you want to listen to this in podcast form, you could also do that on Spotify, iTunes, leave ratings there, thumb up this video, subscribe to the channel if you like more of these Cult of Film reviews. If you want to talk films with me, you could do so on Twitter @OrzovDunn. And until next time, always check your candy.